When I had my first son, I was making $55,000 a year, and my company didn't even offer maternity leave. But within 5 years, I went from that to becoming a senior director while raising my two kids, and I want to show you exactly how I did it. So, in this video, I'll share the risks that I took, the strengths that I leaned into, and the consistency that helped me to grow, not just within my career, but in how I built a better life for my family and for myself. And then I'll teach you how to use your Clifton strengths to build consistency in a way that feels natural to you. Not my playbook, but natural to you, so that you can make your own next big career move. And I want you to know that I didn't just throw this video together. I stayed up until 1 a.m. recording, and then I spent hours the next day refining it. I wanted to give you something that could actually change the way that you think about your career. So let's dive in, because if I can go from $55,000 and 6 weeks of leave to being a senior director while raising two kids, then you can make your next big career move too. Now, when I had my first son, I was making about $55,000 a year. I was grateful for the stable job because my husband and I had just moved from the UK to the US. But there was a problem. My company didn't offer maternity leave. The only option I had was 6 weeks of short term disability. 6 weeks, that's it. And that was especially painful having come from the UK, where if we had stayed, I would have had 6 months leave with my full time pay. But I digressed. We came to the United States, and I knew that I wasn't going to do that 6 weeks again. We wanted to have another child, but I wasn't going to settle for just 6 weeks with my next baby. So I told my husband, we need a different plan. That one decision kind of pushed me into one of the biggest transitions of my career. So I left full time employment and I stepped into contracting as a technical writer. It was a risk, but it paid off because I nearly doubled my salary. The role I was in before, making $55,000, was a technical writing role, but as a contractor, I almost doubled it. The extra income gave me control. I was able to save money and design the kind of maternity leave that I wanted with my second child. So that was my first transformation, from an underpaid employee with no options to a contractor with more financial control. But that wasn't the end of the story. While I was contracting, I leaned into my number one strength, which is relator. Relationship building in that way is my superpower. I like deep relationships with just a few people. So I stayed connected with leaders that I had worked with before, building and maintaining strong professional relationships. And one of those leaders reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I've got a technical writing team that I want you to lead." So that's how I returned to the same company where I was making $55,000. But this time I wasn't a technical writer. I came back as a manager. And because of the credibility that I had built and the relationship I had invested in, I was able to negotiate a higher salary and benefits that worked for me. So that was my second transformation, from contractor with freedom to manager with influence. And that leadership role became the springboard from where I moved from my manager to senior director in just 5 years. And all of that started with one decision. It started with me leaning into my strengths consistently. Let's talk about what consistency really is. Consistency it's not about perfection. It's not about doing everything every day flawlessly. And it's not about grinding yourself into exhaustion. I've tried that. It doesn't work. And I know you probably do too. You're probably a wife and a mother. You're working. You probably got a side hustle. You've got all these different roles that you are trying to do and be perfect at all times. And that's just not realistic. Consistency is about repeatable actions in alignment with your strengths. Think of it like compound interest. Small deposits made regularly build up over time, and that's how careers grow too. Consistency creates evidence. Every consistent action gives you data. So it either works and builds your confidence, or it doesn't work and you learn from it. But either way, you're moving forward. The key is that clarity is created through consistent action, not by waiting for the perfect plan. This is where Clifton Strengths comes in. It groups 34 strengths into 4 domains, and each one gives you a different way to build consistency. The first domain is the executing domain. If most of your strengths are here, then consistency means that steady follow through. You thrive when you check things off and people know that they can count on you. This looks like creating daily routines or managing projects or even delivering results. And it matters because trust and credibility open doors. When people know that you'll deliver, opportunities come. For example, this is me. I have responsibility and achiever in my top 5 strengths, and my consistency in executing has built my reputation and has led to the promotions. The second domain is influencing. If influencing is your lane, then consistency means visibility. It means you thrive when your voice is heard. It looks like you speaking up in meetings or posting regularly or volunteering to present. And this matters because visibility creates opportunity. I'm sure you've been told that you can't just put your head down and grind. That's not where it's going to happen. You need to be seen. You need to be comfortable being seen. And when you operate through the influencing domain, you are comfortable with being seen. Decision makers can't consider you if they don't see you. So, for example, one of my clients leaned in her communication and woo strengths, and by consistently speaking up, she became the go to person for updates, and that visibility opened doors for advancement. The third domain is relationship building. If this is where you're strong, then consistency for you means connection. You thrive when you build trust and deepen relationships. This looks like weekly coffee chats or checking in with mentors or nurturing your network. And this matters because relationships are the currency of career growth. People pull you into opportunities because they trust you. If you remember my LinkedIn DM story, that came from Relator. That came from my consistent investment in the relationship that led directly to my opportunity. And I mentioned before that I went from manager to senior director in 5 years. And each one of those promotions, I can tie back to a specific person, to a specific relationship, not cold job applications. The fourth domain is strategic thinking. If this is your strength, consistency means reflection. You thrive when you bring new insights and ideas. This looks like setting aside time to think, sharing ideas in meetings, writing thought pieces. And this matters because fresh perspective sets you apart. Teams need people who consistently bring clarity and direction. For example, a client with futuristic and strategic began writing weekly reflections, and that rhythm not only clarified her own path, but it gave her a vision for the future. So here's what I want you to take away. You are not stuck. You just need consistency that matches your strengths. When you find your domain and you lean into it consistently, you move from being stuck to clear. You move from being overlooked to visible. You stop circling around and you start moving forward. You stop sitting around and daydreaming and you start making your next big career move. That is the transformation that's waiting for you. If this is resonating, make sure to hit subscribe for weekly strengths based tools to help you get unstuck. And I want you to come to my free live workshop on October 9th and 10th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And I'll show you exactly how to use your strengths to get unstuck and start building consistency towards your next career move. The link to register is below, so save your seat today because the spots are limited. Now, I want you to go away remembering that clarity does not come from waiting. It comes from consistent action into your strengths. If you don't know your strengths, take the CliftonStrengths assessment and get to understand your own natural talents. I'll put the link to the assessment in the description. Okay? Now you know, and now you go. Peace.